Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life. A Professor Sunrise Productions! Hello class, Professor Sunrise here. In today's class, we're taking a look at my Book experience I had in the last few days. Sorry for not uploading in a while, by the way. I was ill again. I had like a very sore throat and I just had the basic stuff like fever. I didn't even fever. Yeah, I had a fever, like a light one, but overall it is way better now and I can finally speak again. But because I was ill, I had a lot of time to do some nice testing with Bystial control, and honestly, I am very happy with how the meta is currently shaping up. It might be a little annoying in the future because we are like kind of like in an auto win, auto lose matchup depending on if you see the out, but definitely more on that later. And without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave some feedback down the comment section below, and let's get right into the video. Don't worry, I will be looking to my right, your left. I think should be if I'm not too dumb. For some notes I did follow videos, so like I said, I was ill in the last few days, so I had a lot of time to do some DB grinding, which is of course very good because on this Saturday I will have my first bigger event this format, being like a 200-ish giant OTS, I think, which is always happening here in Cologne. So that's always really cool because there's just a lot of people there. While the prize support is not the cleanest, it's just always fun to just have a very good amount of people in a very big tournament. We play 8 rounds of Swiss there, no top cut, so the event also doesn't just take too long. But I think in 8 rounds of Swiss, you have definitely a lot of room to just do a lot of stuff, so that's always really fun. And by the way, I will be just showcasing guys some replays I did of not replays, but just some recordings of the gameplay I had on the ladder. By the way, this is my current rank of the ladder. I will just put it in here. So I've been testing quite a bit, and it's been insanely well. So of course, let's just talk a little bit about the decks which are in the current meta. And of course, the elephant in the room, Kash-Tira, is definitely more played than I thought, and it's also a lot stronger than I thought. Because in testing, I did a lot of testing even with the Brave engine. A lot of times I just died to one Ash or one Emperor because the deck is just inherently just a shit ton of one card starters. If you hit the Unicorn, if you hit the Kash-Tira Theosis, they really only have 2 card recovery lines. They just don't have that one clean extender which helps them play through. But for some reason, they always draw it. And if I take a look at the decks which are running around, they're not even that heavy on engine, but they always seem to have a Rise Art plus Kash-Tira Birth for some reason to extend through an Imperm or whatever. So that's definitely not something cool. But overall, I don't think the deck is that scary or strong, and I think it will see some decline in the future. I think it was only really highly represented at YCS Vegas because it was just basically solved already because the deck is just so simple to build. And it's just way better to play maybe not the cleanest deck in the format, but like the second or third strongest deck in the format, but you have it built perfectly. And of course, you can anticipate a lot of people playing Kash-Tira just because it is the hot shit. So you already have the cleanest and most predictable target on the back, so you can just easily you just have a way better time to prepare for an event, if that makes sense. And especially here in Europe, I don't think people will be playing a lot of that. I'm more leaning towards branded players here in Europe, but I will definitely see that in Cologne, and we'll keep you guys updated on that. But 100% the deck is very unhealthy for the game. We are in a pre-Tearlaments slash Sprite or just POT format in general, where you just basically have to see the out, which is like the one good thing about the Tearlaments format, or the best thing. It was, in theory, kind of healthy. While you did need to see some non-engine in form of Bystials or Equalizers in form of like a Super Poly, depending on the exact point in the format. In this format here, we definitely just have to see a Nib or like a Book of Eclipse, otherwise you just cannot play at all, and if you don't see any non-engine, you're basically screwed. For example, in the last tournament against Tier, you could break the board with just engine if your deck was very gassy. But in this format, less so, and this probably will be the reason why this format will be kind of annoying like in a month down the line. Now everything is like super bubbly and fresh, just like in a fresh relationship, but in the future, this is probably gonna be ass. But I will definitely, guys, keep you updated on my mental health regarding the format. And I'm very excited to see some more Kash-Tira variants in the future. The Brave variant seems super underexplored, as I think I saw a deck profile of it. The Brave engine basically solves all of the problems the Kash-Tira engine has. It's just that you don't play as many non-engine slots, but you still have a lot of non-engine slots regardless. So definitely expect to see more of that in the future. And a Rise Heart Turbo where you just mix 3 level 7s and you put them into a Rise Heart is very scary for our deck. There were some people at the YCS Vegas which game plan resolved around that because it plays around Nibiru and the deck can inherently control the game quite well of that. And that is very scary because they play around our Nib. They put a Microcosmos plus face down banish on us, so that's really hard for us to deal with unless we have exactly Imperm and they don't have like forbidden lands, which people are actually playing unironically. So definitely very interesting, but overall I think the matchup will be like a 50-50 just because it is so inherently weak to non-engine that I think it just won't hold up in the meta once people are very confident in what they want to play. Now for the next deck, let's take a look at Sprite. For a lot of people, Sprite was the like the best deck for the new format. I've seen some people in stream talk about it, and honestly, I don't know why. It is super fragile, not into hand traps, because it actually plays around hand traps insanely well, just because they just don't do anything. Gigantic doesn't summon anything, so you don't really have the choke point. And if you negate blue, they will just summon a jet of Gigantic. So you have to have 2 hand traps and to do anything against them, and even then they still probably will end on like 1 negate. So that's pretty solid. But overall, the end board is just really not there, and also the recovery is not there. There are some lists, I will try to find a list and put it in here, of Dinkhang Pham winning a regional or something like here in Germany, playing a very unorthodox list, or the list he played last format and had huge success with, where you go into Mannequin Cat and you summon something out of the deck. But for that, you really need a very narrowed down format, and you definitely need to know what you are playing against. You could do that last format, of course, with Tearlaments, but in this format it seems a little less good, but I'm definitely still excited to see something with that. But he himself even said the deck is very bricky. If you take a look at the deck list, there are just so many draws you don't want to see, especially going second. So that's still not really that good, but it is still super consistent and has a lot of room for non-engines, so definitely in the Kash-Tira format, definitely a very solid pick. Also, keep in mind that you can play this deck with Kash-Tira just because both engines are kind of low investment and very high reward of just 1 to 2 cards. So if you have like Beaver plus Unicorn, you can do some nasty stuff with that. But overall, I think the matchup is very favored for us as Bystial control, just because the deck is so fragile, and it was kind of good for us before. Just double/triple toad was very hard to deal with, but now that they can at maximum end on 1 toad, I think the matchup is super easy for us and definitely should be like a 70-30% in our favor. Now let's take a look at the best deck in the format, at least for us. That's Labyrinth. Holy shit. It is so fun to play against Labyrinth. I cannot even explain it. It's like so nice. It is super interactive matchup, and it's also very skill intensive, and you have to always be on your foot, and you cannot really sleep because you do one misplay, you forget to chain onto a trap with a Bystial, and you just lose. Speaking to that, Bystials are insane against the Lady effect to chain onto a normal trap to set a trap out of the deck, because we can just keep chaining our Bystials to the traps, and we can just keep them out of all of their follow-up, and then we can just out the Lady. Regain plus Druid Swarm completely beats them under skill drain, because as soon as they summon something, we just summon a Druid Swarm and we get rid of their body, and they don't have infinite bodies just like we do. So we just beat them under skill drain, which is also insane. So even game 1s where they flip a skill drain, we can still definitely easily win. And then Imperial Iron Wall is really annoying for us. I'm currently in a struggle between preparing for Imperial Iron Wall or preparing for a lot of the Sky Prison, just because Lightning Storm and Feather Duster would be very good if they play Imperial Iron Wall, but a lot of people, especially now that Ryan Yu and Herman Hansen topped with a lot of the Sky Prison, are on a lot of the Sky Prison. So it's really hard to make an argument for those cards. But then again, evenly on Cosmic, you lose to Imperial Iron Wall and against random decks which play Lancey against us because of Kash-Tira. So it is like a very weird scenario where both have like a 50-50 reason to play them. And I feel like there's no right or wrong anyways, because you could argue that Imperial Iron Wall, we just auto-lose against that, so you might want to play the Lightning Storm / the Feather Duster. But if then I have a lot of the Sky Prison, you just have these dead cards. But overall, I will probably try to play Lightning Storm and Feather Duster, just because we can beat the board if they have a Sky Prison, but if they have Imperial Iron Wall, we cannot play at all. So overall, I think the matchup is probably like a 70-30 to us, maybe even higher. I've only basically lost 1 match against them, because they had Imperial Iron Wall plus Judgment, I think. So I had evenly Cosmic and I couldn't even break that. So that was very insane. But overall, I love the matchup just because it is so interactive. And I'm thinking about picking up a Labyrinth core myself just because I love trap decks. I'm an Altergeist Andy. And I just really want to play trap deck again. But Bystial Control, it is where it is, at least for the foreseeable future. So next deck I want to talk about is Branded. Honestly, I've only played against it once or twice. I've played against Branded Dinomorphia, which is probably not a really good deck, but it is a deck. I've only played against it once. I will do some testing against it later this week because a buddy of mine is playing the deck, and I really want to get the testing done against that deck for Saturday. But overall, I don't think the matchup is good for us. It's probably like a 70-30 in their favor, just because as long as we don't throw Ash, we can just really be screwed. I don't even know what people are on right now, if they go just for like a very strong board, if they go for the Explosion Lockout game plan. I really don't know. But it's definitely not a cool matchup for us, so I will try to do something against that, but I just need to do more testing. But I think the theory is fine for now. Hand trips are kind of okay against that, and the anti-spell on the side deck is just a very good floodgate against the deck. But like I said, probably not too clean for us. And the last deck which I wanted to talk about is Tearlaments. I honestly thought that Tearlaments would be a better deck. Maybe I overestimated the amount it can do, but the endboard is basically still the same, and the consistency, while it's definitely worse, it is not the end of the world. The only problem that deck has is just super fragile, and you have like a super fragile endboard with basically next to no follow-up, and the endboard is not even nearly an auto-win. You have like basically the Tearlaments endboard you had, but that's just like 2 to 3, maybe 4 disruption. But if you don't have any follow-up, people will just play through that, because Tearlaments' biggest strength was never its endboard. It was always the recurability, the consistency. So definitely took a hard hit. But I still think there might be something with Tearlament cards, Ishizu cards. Maybe you play the Kash-Tira cards to turbo into Dracossack, send King of the Swarm, send Enchantress, so you can play the Brave stuff, which is also really good because now you need in-hand triggers. You can still make Winder with Shadows, which are very good discards / mills. So I think the deck might turn into like a very combo-centric build where you go into lots of 2 to 3 card combos with stuff like Brave and a very good discards of the Brave engine, so you can discard a Saliak, you can use Sharon to pitch something. So you just come into that, and then you try to go for like a Winder protected by something else to just blow your opponents out. So there's definitely still something in there. You could play the Nimble package, you could play Sprite stuff. So there's a lot of stuff, and it still might be something to solve. But honestly, it doesn't really make sense to play it right now, just because non-engine is king in this current format. And you probably won't be able to play more than 9 non-engine slots in a deck like that. So overall, I don't think it is Tear's time to shine just yet, but maybe in a few ban lists, maybe in like any new sets coming out, maybe there will be something coming up for Tearlaments to play again, because I still think the deck has something to offer. It's just not quite there yet. So those are the decks which I really wanted to talk about. I think these will be the biggest decks. Everything else kind of was underwhelming. I predicted way more Mathmech, but Mathmech was just not really there. But you've seen the testing session I had against Mathmech. Matchup is pretty solid because we have Bystial, so you might be able to play more Bystials if that comes up. But other than that, let me think about it a little. Yeah, there's nothing really else on Dueling Book right now. On Dueling Book is basically only Sprite and Labyrinth for me for now, and some Kash-Tira. Next to no Despia, so people told me that there's some Despia. Oh, yeah, there's a deck. Fucking Dark World. I hate this deck. It just takes way too long to play. It sucks going second because it has no non-engine slots, basically. And it just can't really break boards, and if it wins the die roll and you don't have like 2 to 3 hand traps, you just lose. So this is just another weird deck which is just super annoying to play against. We do play Bystial, so those are really good, so we play overall 18 hand traps against them, so that's really good. But overall, I just really despise the deck just because it is just like Tearlaments. It takes way too much time to do what it does. Tearlaments doing it in your turn, and the combo of Dark World just taking way too long, so I really don't like the deck. And overall, my verdict for the meta is that while it is definitely, from a game design or like from a gameplay standpoint, it's way unhealthy in the last format because you need to see non-engine to be able to play against a lot of decks, it's just so refreshing to play against decks which are not Tearlaments. I really enjoy it, and overall, I'm happy with how the meta is playing out. I think it will get a little healthier in the future with very robust decks with lots of non-engine, like Marinta is actually topping. I think you will have lots of times to be able to play against decks which are just very fair with a lot of hand traps, very interactive, like Labyrinth. So that's always a really good plus for me. Well, like I said, there is Kash-Tira, there's also Labyrinth and Marintas in the meta, surprisingly. So there is some good things about the meta, but also some bad parts. Overall, it's not the savior of the format I hoped it was, because there's just so much auto win, but it's definitely better than a shit ton of month of share and pitch Kelbeck. So that's it, I think, for my thoughts about the meta. Definitely let me know in the comment section down below what you think about the current meta. I hope my voice is still somewhat bearable for you guys. Class is dismissed. You guys are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace.